What's up, guys? I'm DK, and you're watching Pro Wrestling What If, the series where I look at the different what if scenarios as terms of the world that we call professional wrestling. Netflix recently released the WWE Unreal documentary series that has a lot of people talking, giving the behind-the-scenes look on how storylines were created in WWE from the Netflix debut all the way until WrestleMania 41. One thing that many people pointed out and could be found during the discussion of who is going to win the Royal Rumble was a whiteboard in the background that showed off what may have been the originally planned card for WrestleMania 41, which has many people online thinking that this may have been a better card than the actual WrestleMania 41 card we got. Even though SummerSlam 2025 had just happened and we're months past WrestleMania 41, we might as well jump onto this topic while everyone is currently talking about it. So that's going to be the topic of today's video. We're discussing what if WrestleMania 41 was booked different. And for this card, I'll be putting the matches together in order for each night of WrestleMania as close to what we got in the real timeline, while also discussing what would happen in terms of the results and what would happen overall in the WWE. And if you end up enjoying this video, don't forget to hit that like button, share this to all your friends, subscribe, and press the notification bell for when future episodes get released, and leave a comment down below about today's topic or suggesting a future topic for an episode of Pro Wrestling What If. So we're kicking off with night one, where I think the opening match would have been Rey Mysterio versus Chad Gable. So it looks like we may have lived in a world where Chad Gable got his first WrestleMania singles match instead of the legendary El Grande Americano. Rey Mysterio was announced to have been the opponent for Americano, but would unfortunately suffer a groin injury on the SmackDown before WrestleMania 41 and would end up being replaced by Rey Fenix. This would have been the opening match not only due to Chad Gable constantly being compared to Kurt Angle with his work rate, but this would be paying homage to the Rey Mysterio versus Kurt Angle match at SummerSlam 2002 that's regarded as the greatest opening match of all time. Due to seeing El Grande Americano defeat Rey Fenix in the real timeline, I do think that Chad Gable would have been in a similar situation by defeating Rey Mysterio. Mysterio is already closing in on his career, and it would have made sense to build up Gable to eventually winning his first singles championship in the WWE. Next up would be the ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship, which had Bronson Reed, Damian Priest, Jey Uso, Ludwig Kaiser, Sami Zayn, and Sheamus. Braun Breaker was the Intercontinental Champion going into WrestleMania 41, but in this timeline, he's not even involved in this match, so that means he would have lost the title before the event. Near the end of 2024, Breaker was feuding with Sheamus over the Intercontinental Championship, which has me believing that Sheamus was finally going to become a Grand Slam champion, either at Survivor Series in the triple threat match with Breaker and Kaiser, or the first Saturday night's main event in 2025 in a singles match with Breaker, thus making Sheamus the Intercontinental Champion walking into WrestleMania 41, since he is one of the competitors listed for this ladder match. Bronson Reed had suffered an injury at Survivor Series doing the tsunami off the cage during the War Games match, so either he'd be cleared to return earlier than he did, or he would have ended up being replaced in the match. Damian Priest had switched to the SmackDown brand in January, so he would have ended up staying on Raw since the title was a part of that brand. When it comes to the results of who would end up winning, I think it would have either been Sheamus retaining or probably Jey Uso getting a second reign as champion, which I do have more of an explanation on this later on. The next match would be Dominik Mysterio versus Bad Bunny. Now, we all know after the WrestleMania 37 match and the Backlash 2023 match that Bad Bunny is able to pull off a great match. When it comes to his music life, he barely had any concerts in 2025, with none of them even landing on either night of WrestleMania 41. So I think it had to do with his filming career, as the upcoming movie Caught Stealing had finished production in May 2025, 1 month after WrestleMania 41. So had it not been for that, I think this match would have ended up happening with Bad Bunny winning, since we rarely see celebrities lose their matches anyways. Plus, with Dominik Mysterio being a part of the Judgment Day, there would have been shenanigans involved to where Bad Bunny would have had help from another faction that helps set up another match that's happening on this card. Up next would be Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens. Now, this match was built up for months when Kevin Owens had taken Randy Orton out with the pile driver in November 2024, writing him off TV until returning at Elimination Chamber 2025 after Kevin Owens' match at the event against Sami Zayn. The match was confirmed until it was revealed that Kevin Owens had been dealing with with neck issues and was no longer medically cleared to compete as the injury required surgery. Due to this being Orton's first match since the injury angle, he would have definitely been the one getting the victory at WrestleMania 41, especially having Kevin Owens win the match at Elimination Chamber to make him look strong going into the match against Randy Orton. Up next would be a WWE Women's Championship match between Jade Cargill and the reigning champion Nia Jax. This is a match that was teased when Jade Cargill had made her WWE debut during the Royal Rumble match in 2024, and I even thought this was going to be the direction we were heading into for WrestleMania 40 last year. It was revealed during the WWE Unreal series that Jade Cargill had suffered a legitimate injury, which caused them to pivot into the Who Attacked Jade storyline. And speaking of the Who Attacked Jade storyline, if that storyline doesn't happen, we would be living in a world where Naomi still does the glow gimmick and she doesn't end up having that amazing heel run with the Proceed with Caution gimmick that would lead her to becoming the Women's World Champion that we are currently seeing. If Jade Cargill didn't get injured, the scenario would have likely been for her to have won the Royal Rumble match for 2025 instead of Charlotte Flair to get that title opportunity. For Nia Jax to have walked into WrestleMania as champion, this would have meant that Tiffany Stratton still holds the Money in the Bank briefcase instead of cashing it in on the first SmackDown of 2025. Perhaps this match may have been the first women's Money in the Bank cash-in at a WrestleMania by turning this match into a triple threat, with Stratton ending up being the one to walk out of the event as WWE Women's Champion. Up next would be a singles match between Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, a rivalry that has been going on for the better part of 11 years now since Seth Rollins' betrayal of the Shield. Every now and then we've had segments and matches between the two, like the Royal Rumble in 2022, but they've never once had a singles match against each other at the grandest stage of them all. The match Seth Rollins had with CM Punk on the Raw Netflix debut was likely going to be the only match between the two for the time being, while Roman Reigns had culminated his storyline with Solo Sikoa in the Tribal Combat to obtain the Ula Fala that same night, leading to the Reigns-Rollins match starting to plant the seeds for WrestleMania during the Royal Rumble match like they did, but without CM Punk. The only reason that singles match was turned into a triple threat was likely due to CM Punk's original plans getting switched up, which I'll get into in just a moment. When it comes to this originally planned singles match, it could have been a coin toss of who went over. With Seth Rollins winning, it plays into the real timelines match of Paul Heyman betraying Roman Reigns to allow him to win, while on the other hand, with Reigns winning, this would have been the culmination of this decade-long rivalry. And the main event for night one would have been the World Heavyweight Championship match between CM Punk and the reigning champion Gunther. As you may have seen in the WWE Unreal series, there is a majority vote for CM Punk to win the 2025 Royal Rumble match, but only one person, being Michael P.S. Hayes, was the one who suggested Jey Uso to win the match. The decision for Jey Uso to win the Royal Rumble must have been made the week of the event, which explains why Jey Uso had challenged Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship 1 week prior at Saturday night's main event. CM Punk was meant to win the Royal Rumble match not only to have a title match at WrestleMania, but to guarantee that he would main event WrestleMania for the first time in his career. Had CM Punk not been a part of the Reigns-Rollins match, I still think Punk would have main evented night one of WrestleMania 41 to be able to achieve that goal. The Jey Uso-Gunther match in the real timeline had opened night one, but that was also likely due to everyone having already seen a match between these two. While CM Punk and Gunther had not been seen at that point besides the house show matches they did during the European tour. I think, like the match we just saw occur at SummerSlam, we would have seen CM Punk become the new World Heavyweight Champion, except there wouldn't have been a Seth Rollins cash-in, as a 2025 Mr. Money in the Bank hadn't been determined yet at that point. Shout out goes to Jackson Weingart, Jada Sanchez, Fox Starkiller, Lola Pines, Hayden Sarabo, Skullchimp, Wesley Conklin, Mr. Randomizer, The Real Samuel Randall 1990, Quiet Ninja Riot, and Spidey Fan Productions 2003. And the reason that they ended up getting a shout out is because they joined our YouTube channel membership, which only cost $1.99 a month. Not only do you get the shout out, but you do get lots of other perks, including early access to every single video and shorts that we produce on this channel. So definitely consider joining our YouTube channel membership. It will be greatly appreciated and will go a long way of helping out this channel a lot. So definitely consider it, but let's get right back to the video. Now continuing on with night Night 2, with the opening match being Bianca Belair versus Rhea Ripley for the Women's World Championship. Now, this match was going to happen due to Bianca Belair winning the Elimination Chamber match and the Royal Rumble winner going after the other Women's Championship. However, Io Sky's popularity was difficult to ignore, and a pivot was made to have her win the Women's World Championship on the Raw after Elimination Chamber, thus setting up the triple threat match we had in the real timeline that was regarded as one of the best matches between both nights of WrestleMania. Io Sky had different plans for WrestleMania, which we'll get into, but there's no doubt in my mind that a Belair-Ripley singles match would have been as good. The two previously had matches when they were in NXT, but this would have been the first time they had a singles match on the main roster. When it comes to the result, I actually do think that Bianca Belair would have won the Women's World Championship. Not only would this have meant that she basically would have been the female Undertaker with an undefeated streak at WrestleMania, it was time for someone else to hold the title since Rhea Ripley had been involved in that scene since she won it from Charlotte Flair when it was the SmackDown Women's Championship. The other ladder match that was on this card, but for the United States Championship, which would have had Carmelo Hayes, Jimmy Uso, Santos Escobar, Shinsuke Nakamura, Solo Sikoa, and the reigning champion LA Knight. My reasoning for both ladder matches taking place as match 2 of both nights was not only due to the prior year's ladder match being the second match, but when it came to the tag team showcases for WrestleMania 39, both the men and women's matches were match 2 of each night. LA Knight had walked into WrestleMania 41 as the United States champion, so that still remains the same here. The rest of the roster that's involved in this match never ended up competing on the card of WrestleMania. The closest would have been Jimmy Uso coming out to celebrate Jey Uso's World Championship win, and Solo Sikoa being by the side of Jacob Fatu, who was the one to challenge for the United States Championship in the real timeline. It's crazy to think that we could have been in a timeline where Jacob Fatu doesn't even get a match on the WrestleMania 41 card, but I'm sure he would have been involved during this ladder match in some sort of capacity, especially depending on how the result of this match would have turned out, as it could have been very likely for Solo Sikoa to have been crowned the new champion. Still leading to the summer program between Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa we got in the real timeline. My other option, which is what I was alluding to earlier, would have been for Jimmy Uso to win the United States Championship, as WWE might have wanted to recreate the moment between Benoit and Guerrero at WrestleMania 20, but with both Uso brothers hugging each other after both having won singles gold. However, I think the more realistic option would have been for Solo Sikoa to have been crowned the new United States champion here. Up next would be a 10-person mixed tag team match between the Wyatt 6 and the Judgment Day. Now, many people have wondered whether this would have meant that Dominik Mysterio would be pulling double duty for WrestleMania or not. A reason you can say that Dominik Mysterio didn't have to be a part of this match was due to there being 5 other members in the group to fill the slots, being Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, Finn Balor, JD McDonough, and Carlito. However, a reason Dominik Mysterio could have pulled double duty was due to the injury that JD McDonough would have suffered during the January 27, 2025 episode of Raw. Uncle Howdy would not be a part of the match due to suffering a shoulder injury, but all 5 slots would have been filled with Eric Rowan, Dexter Lumis, Joe Gacy, Nikki Cross, and the 5th member being Alexa Bliss. Prior to Alexa Bliss's pregnancy in 2023, her direction was going to be a part of the Wyatt 6 during the original iteration plan when Bray Wyatt was still alive. The Seeds had started planning for this match when she was eliminated by Liv Morgan during the Elimination Chamber match. However, due to some pivots, Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez would go into WrestleMania 41 as tag team champions, which I believe they were meant to drop the titles before the event. The Wyatt 6 were clearly going to end up winning, and I think that would have helped propel the Judgment Day storyline we were originally going to get going into this year's SummerSlam prior to Liv Morgan's injury. Up next would have been a match between Braun Breaker and Drew McIntyre, with Stone Cold Steve Austin as the special guest referee. Braun Breaker, like I mentioned earlier, had defended the Intercontinental Championship in a fatal 4-way match, and Drew McIntyre had ended up facing Damian Priest in a Sin City Street fight at the event. With Braun Breaker no longer the Intercontinental Champion in this timeline, this would have meant that just like Priest, he would have ended up being transferred to the SmackDown brand to do the feud with McIntyre. With both men having been heels at the time, it would have probably been Breaker to turn babyface for the feud, considering he was already getting babyface reactions when holding the Intercontinental Championship. With how we've been seeing him get pushed so far, I do think Breaker would have ended up defeating McIntyre McIntyre to further elevate him as one of the next top stars of the WWE. The one thing that's intriguing about this is having Stone Cold Steve Austin as a special guest referee. I'm sure he would have hit McIntyre with a stunner after the match and had a couple of cold ones with Breaker. Let's just hope Austin in this timeline doesn't run his ATV into the barricade like he did in the real timeline. Up next would be AJ Styles versus Logan Paul. This is one of two matches that ended up happening in the real timeline that was planned for this original card. Clearly, WWE wanted to incorporate Logan Paul to the show somehow, and AJ Styles was perfect as terms to the high-flying style that he'd be able to work with. Everything clearly stays the same, including the result of Logan Paul going over in this match. AJ Styles is near the end of his career, and Logan Paul had been taking tons of losses, so it didn't hurt AJ Styles in any way. Up next, we have ourselves a Women's Tag Team Championship match with the team of Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair against Damage Control, which had Io Sky and Asuka. Becky Lynch was the only one from this match that ended up being a part of the real timeline's Tag Team Championship match. The reason this match was likely changed was due to the fact that Asuka was still recovering from a knee surgery she got after Backlash 2024. Even if you replaced Asuka with another Damage Control member being Kairi Sane, she also suffered an injury and wasn't able to compete at WrestleMania. So if one of them were able to have been cleared, then Io Sky wouldn't have defeated Rhea Ripley to become the Women's World Champion, and the Belair Ripley singles match would have happened. Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez would have dropped the titles to Damage Control before WrestleMania, like I had mentioned, due to the match with the Wyatt Six. Like in the real timeline, Becky Lynch would be walking out as the new Women's Tag Team Champions, but with Charlotte Flair instead of Lyra Valkyria at WrestleMania. If this had happened, there's a big chance that the Women's Intercontinental Championship doesn't get elevated the way it does, since Lynch and Valkyria wouldn't have been feuding against each other. And the main event of night 2 being Cody Rhodes versus John Cena for the undisputed WWE Championship. This is the other match that was the same as the real timeline, but there is a big difference here. When this card was made, it was around the time of Royal Rumble, which meant at that point, John Cena was still a babyface and there was no discussion of the heel turn until close to Elimination Chamber. So this match could have ended up being simply between two babyfaces according to this card. A few things about this match would be that we would have no Travis Scott involved in the deciding factor of this match, and the fact that I believe John Cena would have lost this match had he been a babyface. Some of the best John Cena storylines we've seen are the ones where he struggles to achieve a goal, and I think struggling to achieve the 17th World Championship would have been something WWE would have done, especially living in a timeline where John Cena never turned heel during this farewell tour. Sounds like a good topic for a future episode. Leading to John Cena working his way up to win the 17th World Championship, which he would be able to do at SummerSlam for its first two-night event. At that point, the question would be, how long would John Cena hold on to the title knowing that his farewell tour would be half finished? Well, that sounds like something to discuss on a future episode of Pro Wrestling What If, so let us know what you think down below.